Hey everyone, it's Brett Hornby here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel here, and in this personal vlog, here we are, personal vlog number 76 here. I'm going to talk about stuff that I like to watch on this platform that we call YouTube here. It's definitely something that I don't know if I'll ever record here. Back when I was still finding myself and starting to decide to get more active on YouTube, I did make a Google Photos creation, as I did a little bit of it when Sears Canada announced that they were closing out of Canada, and I took pictures to document it, and I took pictures, after when the liquidation started, and then in the middle, and then just before it ended here. But the one thing that I'm definitely fascinated on, and I like all the creators on this platform here, is first vlog number 76. I'm going to call this one Fascination with Dead Mall Videos. I'm definitely fascinated with the, Dead Mall videos. It seems like, there's definitely many reasons that malls in general are dying. You definitely see the phenomenon a lot more in the U.S., but you definitely see it in some sense in Canada here. There's definitely, can't think of any examples here locally. The only example I can think of locally here in Calgary that we had close to being a dead mall was the Deerfoot Mall, in the northeast part of Calgary there, near Deerfoot Trail and 64th Avenue there. It was a location that, you'd think, it's somewhat close to the airport, close to the major highway, but definitely it just looked a little dreary and dated here. But then what they did to that particular site there, it definitely escalated a lot more when the mall died off a little there, especially when they built a Walmart Supercenter separately there. I think I remember in that mall, I think there was a bay, the Hudson's Bay Company had one of the big anchors there, and then they relocated out there, and then there was a Sears in there, and eventually Sears moved out. It was one of the underperforming stores there before eventually Sears Canada said we're pulling out of Canada altogether there. But what they did at Deerfoot City there was that they made it into a mixed use facility there where you have different parcels there. I know there was like a rec room there, some restaurants, and then you see redevelopments where they put in the kind of mixed commercial and commercial and residential there. I know that the only time that I've seen Deerfoot Mall, what I really called it dead there, really was busy, was just in the food court there, and it was because the nearby businesses in that industrial area, if you're familiar with Calgary there, around Huntington there, on 64th Avenue and Deerfoot Trail there, when they all go out for lunch and want to go grab something to eat at the food court there. But the rest of the mall kind of was a little dreary there. But then it just fascinates me, especially over the U.S. there. I think the big reason why malls are dying, one is I think they built too many malls. It seemed like the glory days was definitely in the 1970s, 80s, and 90s there, and in the early 2000s before, the global financial crisis here, and, it's definitely tough economic times here as well, especially with recent events and, drop of oil. But, I just think there was definitely too many retail that it just couldn't sustain itself, and then, there's more competition there, and also I think the fact that, people pay has not kept up with the cost of living, and then there's definitely more options to shop online. Definitely, sometimes it is more convenient to shop online instead of having to get up and go to the store there. But I'm just definitely still fascinated on dead mall videos, and going back to Calgary just for comparison's sake here, other larger malls in Calgary, you definitely, one of the typical layouts here, I know there's Sunridge Mall. That's the one mall I definitely went to a lot when I was younger because I grew up in the Northeast. But then you got Market Mall and Chinook Center there, where Chinook Center definitely has undergone a lot of redevelopment there. And then Market Mall and Chinook Center were definitely both are managed by Catholic Fairview, which is one of the biggest, commercial retail real estate companies in Canada there. And definitely those malls do the best there, and they're definitely well maintained and definitely attracts all the bigger shops there. But then they all have that kind of similar layout there, where you got a couple anchor stores and You know, you got the main corridor and the food court. And some malls are, you know, it's either one big, you know, one story, circular layout, or you have wings and then you have 2 stories of it. It just fascinates me where you can get them all, like a Summers Mall size or Market Mall size or Chinook Center size. And then I see many creators on this platform here that document it and talk about how much has died, that you get them all that size that I'm comparing to completely dead. Where, you know, once, I mean, sometimes it's like, you know, when one major anchor pulls out, and I know in the U.S. there, I mean, as I mentioned, Sears Canada, well, Sears was struggling in the States there, and I think they're going to be gone in the next couple of years, but then you hear Macy's and JCPenney, they're also struggling there, and then I know one big chain that I hear was also going under as well is K-Mart. I do remember there were K-Marts in Canada there. It wasn't until about 1997 where the Hudson's Bay Company bought all the leases for all the K-Marts and shut down when K-Mart pulled out of Canada. So I did briefly remember K-Mart, and actually where I grew up in the house that I lived in, we lived right across the street from a strip mall there, and actually it was kind of I remember it before it's where it is now, where it's just a strip mall, and you know, you have like a gas station, and then there was like a restaurant there, including a Tim Hortons, and there was a KFC in the corner, and I remember that KFC also got renovated many times there, where first it was just a takeout, but then it changed into a dining experience there. But I don't remember, I know there's a grocery store there, it used to be Safeway, now it's Save on Foods there. But I remember that mall, and actually it had a Kmart there, and eventually that whole mall got, you know, pretty much renovated from the ground up there, and that Kmart was gone. Now it's just, you know, strip mall with a Goodwill, a dollar store, you know, various commercial doctor's offices there. I mean, that strip mall definitely has changed a lot over the years there. I think in some way, thinking back, despite the fact it was a dreary, you know, it's the Trans-Canada Centre here in Calgary, where it was near 16th Avenue, 52nd Street there. I just remember it was a dreary mall there, but I actually almost think it back in the day, that mall was almost better than what's there now. I don't know. Maybe it's just nostalgia memories when I was younger there, but that's getting back to the Kmart there, but it just fascinates me how, you know, all these malls have changed, and, you know, the one thing that I'm critical of, given that I work in the engineering and planning industry here, I mean, I actually like, you know, older style aesthetics and, or, you know, styles and architecture there. You just don't see that in malls now, because now, I mean, getting back to, let's say, you know, Market Mall and Chinook Center there, which is definitely thriving, and I've also seen other malls in other major Canadian cities there, and it, like I say, I know one that I know that's still fresh in my mind here. A couple years ago when I was in Ottawa for the 105th Grey Cup there, back in 2017, there was the Rideau Center downtown there, and you know, it definitely was also managed by Calgary Fairview, where it had that similar feel, but it was all just white and big, and you know, it looks more modern, but it kind of loses some of that vintage aesthetics there. So when I'm on this platform, and you know, when I see a lot of various creators, and you know who you're out there, I mean, I know the biggest one, I know is Dan Bell. This is Dan Bell, and then I like Ace's Adventures, and you know, there's Doomy Grunt, and also Sal, the Exhibition Log Series. I know there's a Discord server on this platform where it has all those creators on there, but those are the biggest ones that I enjoy watching deadball content here. And also you have Retail Archaeology, who documents, you know, malls in his area, and also just big chain stores, and everyone does their thing and how they document the history and all that, and it just fascinates me how malls used to look like. And also the fact that, getting back to here in Calgary, the first mall that was built in Calgary, some people thought it was Chinook Center. It was actually the North Hill Center, which is actually near where I am. And actually the one thing that still fascinates me, getting back to Sears there, that the Sears at the North Hill Center, which is near 14th Street, 16th Avenue Northwest near Sate, in Calgary there, that the Sears, which now is a solo home furniture store, and it only occupies the main floor there. And actually my grandmother at one time used to work at that said Sears. The one thing that impresses me about that Sears, that there's parts in that store and the outside facade that looks like, it was the mall that was there when it was built in 1958. So you got a Sears there that looks like the original Sears, and then just passed on, like, because that mall is definitely, like many malls these days, get redeveloped and, refurbished and renovated. And also I do remember that mall there. There used to be a movie theater and a bowling alley where it was a parking, it was structurally held up, and you were able to park underneath going back to the North Hill Center there. It had the vintage aesthetics too, with the big one-screen theater. I think it had over 800 seats. It only showed one theater, but it was a prime theater, and I'm not too sure if it was not quite sure exactly the style of film that they used, but it wasn't that 8mm. Then it had that bowling alley, and he parked underneath there, and yeah, that definitely had those vintage aesthetics here, and just thinking the interior there, because in the North Hill Center, and actually, I do have pictures in my Instagram, which if you see my other social media links in the description below there, I shared some of those historic pictures that used to be at that North Hill Center there, and you probably see what I mean when I say I kind of miss that vintage aesthetics of that North Hill had, but it definitely had that style of architecture that definitely you don't see in malls anymore today. And then getting back to these other various creators, there's a Dead Mall Discord server out there, but like especially in smaller cities, because I live in a big metropolitan city with over 1.2 million people here. But when you go to like these smaller towns, and I know sometimes, on my adventures on my road trip here, sometimes I do stop in a little town or city or a small city to take a pit stop, fill up the gas, grab something to eat, and stretch my legs and get some air and do a lot of stuff that you do when you're on longer trips there. That you sometimes walk into some of these malls there, and it does feel like you go back in time, go back to a time when I was much younger, and thinking, man, I kind of miss that style there. It's not that big white box that you see in modern malls today there. But I know, obviously, the big videos that I enjoyed watching from the various Dead Mall videos here was, the famous Dead Malls, like the Dixie Square Mall, that's now gone. Then you got the Rolling Acres Mall. I know the Dixie Square Mall was both famous and infamously known, was used in that Blues Brothers scene there, and there was that police chase in the mall there, and then that was just Harvey, Illinois, out of South Chicago there, but that mall definitely was left in decay there, and increasing crime there, and that's why everyone pulled out. And then the fact that you had the Rolling Acres Mall in Akron, Ohio there, that was another famous Dead Mall that gets on here, and also you had the Randall Park Mall. They said at one time was the world's biggest mall in the world there. That was short-lived there, and then you still hear that debate because being here in Alberta here, so every time I am up in Edmonton, which is the capital city in my province I live in, it's about 300 kilometers south of Calgary, I go to the West Edmonton Mall there, and the thing with the West Edmonton Mall in Edmonton there is that most of the stuff that if you go to Edmonton to want to see and do, like downtown on the east side there, and then also being a sports fan, it's Como Stadium, and that is also on the east side of the city. The West End of the Mall is on the far west end of the city there. So it's definitely, out of the way for all the things that you would want to do in Edmonton with downtown. I mean, that's where the Alberta legislature is, and then, all the stuff to do downtown, and their downtown mall there, which they call, I think it's called the City Center. And even then, and there's some part, that mall also in Edmonton downtown, and you could say the same about the core in downtown Calgary, at TD Square there, got renovated there, but I remember that City Center in Edmonton, it still had those vintage aesthetics there, and I know that by the bay there, you definitely see some interesting, stats there with those glass, not metal, but kind of glassy ceiling there. I just kind of miss that, seeing it in malls today, and that's why I like these, retro malls that, gets documented on here, and Dead Malls here, and of course, that's where I discovered the genre of vaporwave that always gets used in all these Dead Mall videos here, and that's definitely another interesting music genre to look into as well. if you know what I mean. But it's definitely fun and fascinating to see these dead malls here. And then another big mall that's huge that failed was that Forest Fair Place or Cincinnati Mills Mall in Cincinnati, Ohio. There definitely has one state that definitely got hit hard was Ohio there, but definitely brought it a lot of nice content here. And I mean, if I had the time and resources, that could be something I would try to do there. But then my luck here, it would be hard for me to conceal, make good content, make a web, not I was about to say weapon, no, make a video and do the content there. My luck what here is that suddenly you get a security guard humming out and give me shit for recording and giving more shit than someone who was shoplifting, and that's definitely the one thing I don't want to worry about if I ever recorded any dead malls there. But definitely kudos to all the creators, because I do feel there is some importance to document the past and retail past, and gives a time when malls definitely had their glory. That was definitely my childhood there. But that's the thing, I hardly go to malls now because there's other ways to buy stuff, and it seems like we're always off to the big box stores or specialty stores, because if there's ever any specialty items I want, I go to that specialty store or just go find anything online if I could. Or it's just a changing landscape here. I mean, it's the reason why I say ultimately why you get malls dying is the fact that they built too many of them. And I remember the big buzz, because getting back to here locally in Calgary, that I think really expedited the downfall of the Deerfoot Mall that now has all been redeveloped as a mixed-use area. And that's the other thing too. If I need to go to the mall there, I almost need a reason to go there other than go shopping, because you definitely start seeing more experience centers. And again, back to when I was in Ottawa, when I was there for the 105th Grey Cup there, I actually liked the fact that where they redeveloped that TD Place Stadium there, and that's where they justified, spending money to refurbish that stadium there, is that they redeveloped that whole block there. It was almost like another village in a city. Where, you had TD Place Stadium, which is where the Ottawa Red Blacks play, and I was there for the Grey Cup, and I was heartbroken at the end of that game, covered in snow, for obvious reasons. If you look back on the 105th Grey Cup there, as this Calgary sports fan was a little sad wearing his red there. But that being aside there, I would have definitely loved to have something like that here, where you got the stadium where you can catch the game, but there's also restaurants, shops, and a movie theater. So ideally you can do a game, dinner, and a movie, depending on when the game is. I mean, let's say if it's a late game, you can say, oh, go catch a matinee, and then after the matinee, go catch some dinner to fill you up before you don't have to overpay for stuff at the game there, catch the game, and make a day out of it. That's definitely smart use of area there. And right here in Calgary, as slowly we're going to start playing that new event center, which would be eventually the new home for these guys and all of the associated teams. That hopefully there's plans to make that so I could potentially go have a night out or a day out where I can go do some activities, grab some meat, and go to the game. Or let's say if it was an afternoon game, go to the game and then do some activities, then grab some meat and go home. But it's definitely one of the things that needs to, I'm fascinated with, but definitely they need to repurpose these malls. But the other knock with these malls is the fact that the reason why they also decay and just sit there, because they're also expensive to maintain and expensive to demolish. So that's why sometimes they rot there, and you definitely see that what happens when people go away, and definitely has that apocalyptic feeling there. And you definitely saw that in the Dixie Square, the Rolling Acres there. You also get yahoos and crazies that come in and break in and try to steal stuff for parts and metal there. But it also just tells you, show the economy here too, where you always get the people at top that even if they fail, they still get a golden parachute, and everyone else is just struggling to get by there. And it's just changing demographics in the area, because always seems like the reason why malls eventually die in all these dead mall videos that gets documented, and I love all the creators that do that kind of stuff on here, is either there was too many malls in the area, then it was built in a rough area, bad location, or 30 years ago when that mall was built, there was the people there that either shifted and gotten older and moved out, or then new people came in and either aren't interested in what's sold there or can't afford it, or just the authenticity changes. Not it's just many reasons with the changing demographics here, and I still think the big reason why I think Sears has failed is the fact that it didn't evolve. It was overpriced, and I felt that that store only appealed to people that were over the age of 55. Except when I'm thinking about the people over the age of 55, or the people that were over 55 that are now in their 80s and 90s, and then the people that are now in their 50s now don't seem to have that interest to shop at Sears. And then the fact that getting back into there's more options out there and has evolved. I mean, why Walmart has become a big, because it definitely appeals to the more general demographics there, and have a huge variety, and obviously had the volume there, and cash is king. And when we all work hard for our money and don't have enough of it or much of it after paying for other expenses that keep rising, I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do. But yeah, it just fascinates me with dead malls. And also the fact when you get these bigger malls, calling it a life center there, that, let's say for example West End Mall. I mean, West End Mall is more just like a destination because there's a lot of other attractions on there that, and also the other reason why I went to West End Mall, I always try to go there when I go to Edmonton there, but it is out of the way for most of the things that I usually do in Edmonton. Usually it involves me going there to eventually watch a sporting event where I hope to watch the Calgary team win, beat the Edmonton team. That always seems to be what all my trips to Edmonton always involves around. Going there to hopefully watch the Calgary team come on top. And I had that ultimate experience, in 2018 when the Calgary Stampeders beat the Ottawa Red Blacks. Revenge from a couple years ago to win the Grey Cup in Edmonton there, and it just felt so much sweeter to, win the championship in enemy territory there. But yeah, it's just, I should say, Bubba Gump restaurant there. I definitely had to try that, and as I know, it's the only Bubba Gump location that's open in Canada. I mean, maybe they've opened others, but it was the first one that was open in Canada. Was at West End Mall in Edmonton there. But there was also recently that American Dream Mall that opened in Jersey there, in the Meadowlands there, where the MetLife Stadium is, and then where the Devils used to play, the Devils and the Nets used to play in the Meadowlands there. It'd be interesting to see how those malls last. I mean, yeah, they're massive and have more than just shopping. You almost need that now. But it's just, there was just too many malls built back in the day, and with the economy being the way it is, and for most people, pay hasn't kept up with cost of living and inflation there. And then depending on where it was built, if areas changed, people change, people's demographics shift, and then if suddenly an area goes down for the worse, if it was a tanking economy, or just suddenly crime gets attracted, that definitely scares people away from shopping centers. And sometimes natural disasters also hit that area too. So yeah, this is just me going on in this personal blog and just my fascination with dead mall videos. And I just say thanks to all the creators that do that. I did a little taste of that myself when I went to document Sears Canada, because I felt I just had to do that, because it was another retail store that suddenly left in Canada here. Although I didn't think they approached it well. Target, the store that Target was saying, gee, a lot of Canadians come down to the U.S. to shop at Target. Well, yeah, that was back when the dollar was at par, but everything still costed more here. That with a lot of some major cities near the border there, a lot of Canadians came down to the U.S. border to do their shopping there because it was actually more economical, and there was brands that you can get in the States they can't get here in Canada. So Target thought, wouldn't it be a great idea if we expanded up here in Canada? But what they mistaked on was the decided to do a wholesale invasion, because they bought all the leases out of Zellers there, and I used to actually work at Zellers. It was a division of the Hudson Bay Company there. The Hudson Bay Company definitely, are laughing at that deal, because You know, it's like, sure, you can buy all your stores there. Made them all Targets. Yeah, they were nice, clean, and fresh there. But the problem is that they had distribution problems, and then the fact that, you know, people were used to shopping elsewhere because there was a lot of options out there, and the fact that the prices weren't any cheaper at Target than it was at Walmart there, and then the fact that they just did the wholesale invasion too fast. They expanded too fast there because they had 133 stores, and the plan was is that they were going to just do wholesale invasions like now Zellers, now Target, and everything be good. And I think that was definitely the mistake there. They didn't test markets out before expanding, which is definitely the smart thing to do, and that's what Nordstrom did in Canada. I know the first Nordstrom actually was I believe actually was the first Nordstrom when it opened up at the former Sears space at Chinook Center there, and actually Nordstrom that was in the Rideau Center in Ottawa downtown there, that also used to be a Sears or theme here, but you know, it's definitely, Canada's definitely a lot tougher place to suddenly just set up shop here. It's just ultimately why Canadians shopped at Target in the US there, was because of the fact that at the time it was cheaper, and there was stuff there that we wanted that we don't get here, and there's definitely various reasons and tariffs there why everything costs a lot more there. And I remember when I first walked into a Target back in San Diego in 2001, it actually did exactly remind me of a Zellers that we used to have up in Canada, and they actually had the same products like Cherokee, for example. I remember saying, gee, that's up in Zellers in Canada there. But yeah, I mean, that's just various things, and I just didn't have a chance to document Target leaving, you know, Canada or Calgary, but I made sure I did that for Sears there, so I had a little taste of that. I felt I had to be a little discreet taking pictures in the store there, and I did feel a little weird just taking pictures in the store there, so I can only imagine how the creators feel, how they, you know, do the camera there, because you don't want to get in trouble, and you see sometimes it almost seemed like they get more trouble than you would if you were caught stealing or doing, I mean, I did it during open hours, and I mean, there's definitely a lot of other things that some YouTubers do that are illegal, and during that, I definitely are willing to do that, especially, you never know who can watch your content, and you're just worried that suddenly your employer might watch your content if you did something illegal. That, yeah, I don't want to worry about that. But I just want to say thanks to all the creators that make Dead Mall videos, and you know, definitely that's my whole take on my Fascination Dead Mall videos there. So yeah, as I say, if you want to follow along with this Calgary sports fans journey, all the Flames, Hitmen, Roughnecks, and Stampeders, just make sure you hit like, subscribe, and you know, follow along there. I mostly do Calgary sports, doing stories and game recaps and that. But personal vlogs is definitely one of the things to do, and this is the one thing I definitely talked about, as well as the Fascination of Dead Mall videos and what I enjoyed to watch there. I also do attempted comedy, and I also share my experiences. Let's say I'm on the road or at a sporting event, or I did a Google Photos creation showing my pictures of all the Sears locations that were ending here in Calgary a couple years ago. So if you want to follow along with this Calgary Sports Fans journey, just to make sure you like, subscribe. I also have my other social media links down in the description below there. So I guess I still have Flames gear on, so I'll say go Flames go, and I'll see you in the next video here.